found out that the Clemmons Family Farm had actually been awarded the Art Place grant, that was fantastic because nearly almost a year and a half earlier, I had been talking to Lydia and about this project, and at that time, just really talking about the vision and the aspirations for the project, and to receive that grant and the resources to make it happen. That was fantastic. I'm inspired by the fact that the Art Place program exists to begin with, and that it has existed for 7.5 years, and they've got 2.5 years left to do some great, wonderful things. It's very, very enlightening to me to see how they laid out and walked us through the process of how this grant was given to the Clemmons Family Farm, and you kind of understand the landscape of the competition that they were dealing with, and how that happens. For me, trying to envision how this space is going to be energized and fulfill the purpose that we all aspire to. It starts with actually the setting and the context of the barn. And so walking up for the first time and understanding how it's situated right in between the barn house and the main homes. It's just a wonderful context. It's accessible. You can walk from the other 4 properties. You can access it off the street. So just thinking about how one arrives and that whole experience of arrival. So I'm at the lower level where the shed house has been removed, and having this wonderful clear vista to the south side, all the way across the property, all the way back to the main house, was incredible. There you can envision it has a very intimate feel, and the materiality changes. Obviously, you have concrete and the lime-coated wood, which is beautiful, and you can just sort of imagine having some of the spaces that we all were talking about this weekend, whether it's artist or artist in residence or artist studios, or whether it's classrooms, or whether it's some type of community supporting spaces. You can see that in that sort of low scale space, and really getting a sense of small groups of people being able to convene. So that was real inspiring to me. From the lower level, I got a view up on the corner where the cistern is, and so to see this big water tank that you hardly ever see then of that size and scale in that good shape, to see it sort of hovering above you was fantastic. And so then we went upstairs, and it's a completely different experience. The barn just opens up in a voluminous space with the sort of A-framed roof structure, and everything is exposed. It's in great shape. The wood plank flooring, you can see how that can be just brought back to life. The types of spaces that the community is talking about, whether it's performance spaces for dance, for aerialist, for song, you can imagine that space accommodating it. It's got the volume and it's got the scale, and it's not overwhelming. It's not a space where you feel like a performance or performer can get lost. Then you see the beauty of the cistern sitting there. The most important gem, I think, that you have in there is the water cistern.
Isn't that the most wonderful thing? It is so fantastic.
It's wonderful, and it's a large artifact in this voluminous space.
It is.
Everything that we talked about this weekend with the wonderful stakeholders, neighbors, community members, even the support from the American Institute of Architects, the AIA, just all of the people, musicians, artists that came and we interacted with. You can imagine all of that happening in the big barn. So that was exciting. The tenor of the day was limitless thinking and blue sky thinking, and I had the wonderful opportunity to share my experience with the group on space making and placemaking specific to African American culture and identity. That was wonderful, and just sort of sharing the lessons that I learned, because it's a common thread across all typologies about the way that you those of us that are entrusted to tell the stories and somehow express the history and culture and stories in the built environment. And we took the entire stakeholder group and we did a tour, again from the perspective of knowing more now, being educated more. Yes, which is the best place to be. Then we came back and we broke into 4 groups. I was able to just kind of float between the different groups. They found their niche and they expressed what was important to them, and we all felt really inspired. And I think that there was a consistent message about this place. Preservation was key. You know, that's a fundamental charge that we have, but all on the same page about the way you do that, and then put forth a very forward-looking, forward-thinking, future-looking design and design expression and uses, and a lot of talk about being responsible stewards of the environment in terms of sustainability and telling stories of making sure the story of this farm and agriculture and what that means to Vermont, and surely what the notion of this being an African American owned farm means to Vermont, and regardless of the uses and everything, that the building and the barn has a responsibility to share that story. This project is worthy of so much more investment, and I say this from having worked on many projects in many areas around the country, and in my opinion, there's not another project that has an African American family, single family for decades, owning this much significant asset in this tiny little state of Vermont, and making this type of statement like that. This is really what you call organic grassroots. And so the potential for this, so no one was limiting their thought about, well, we're only charged with thinking about, this little area. People were thinking broader, and they were thinking big, and they were thinking about the bigger vision. And I think they were doing that because they know it is not only achievable, but that there's a belief that it is going to happen.